What was Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip's first impression of Sarah Ferguson? Fans might remember Sarah Ferguson for her toe-sucking scandal and her subsequent divorce from Prince Andrew, while the incident eventually resulted in her fall from grace and exile from the royal family. A biographer claimed that Fergie actually made a first good impression to Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. Back then, Prince Philip thought of Sarah as a suitable wife material to his second son. They had not initially thought of her as a candidate for marriage to Andrew, but when they considered it, the idea of having her in the firm, as Prince Philip calls it, looked a most attractive prospect. Royal biographer Ingrid Stewart wrote in her book, Sarah, Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of York, which was published in 1991. Sarah was viewed positively as she already knew what royal life entailed. She came from a suitable background, the author added. She had mixed in the edges of the royal circle all her life and knew the ropes. Another plus for Fergie back then was her personality. She was down to earth without any trace of snobbishness they so disliked, and she was probably the first girl Andrew had been serious about who could be considered remotely suitable, Stewart wrote. Meanwhile, it was easy for Queen Elizabeth to bond with Sarah since they shared common interest. The Queen liked Sarah, they get along. The biographer wrote, their mutual enjoyment of country pursuits, their love of dogs and horses provided them with a common ground. However, the royal family's good impression of Sarah quickly evaporated when troubles hit her marriage to Prince Andrew. Her relationship with the family further deteriorated when she was involved in one of the family's biggest scandals. Sarah and Prince Andrew separated in 1992. They were not able to patch up their marital vows as they only saw each other 40 days a year because of the Duke of York's naval career. But 5 months later, compromising photos of Fergie and his financial advisor, Texan millionaire John Byron, were published. The shocking scandal hit the royal family hard, particularly Prince Philip, who can't stand the embarrassment brought by the Duchess to the family. Up until that point, she'd enjoyed warm rapport with her father-in-law, but from that moment on, Duke of Edinburgh never forgave Sarah for the embarrassment and the humiliation that she had reaped. Author Katie Nicholl said on the Channel 5 documentary The Royal Family at War, Prince Philip, doesn't like other people bringing the Queen into disrepute. Ken Waff, Princess Diana's former bodyguard, agreed. I think he found Fergie's antics within the marriage to Prince Andrew one of those difficult royal pills to swallow. While Prince Philip is dead set on not wanting to meet Sarah again, the Queen is not as unforgiving as her husband. Her Majesty reconciled with Fergie in 2013, but she would only invite the Duchess of York over at Balmoral Castle whenever Prince Philip is not around. Prince Edward's surprising opinion of Princess Diana and Sarah Ferguson revealed. Princess Diana and Sarah Ferguson were not held in high regard by Prince Edward, who blamed them for the royal family's decreasing popularity. According to a royal author, Princess Diana and Prince Charles faced a turbulent marriage after they tied the knot in their 1981 royal wedding. Meanwhile, Sarah Ferguson, affectionately known as Fergie, and Prince Andrew spent only 6 married years together before they separated in 1992. The same year as Diana and Charles. However, Prince Edward was critical of the royal women and was never taken in by the Princess of Wales, according to a royal author. Royal biographer Ingrid Stewart, in her 1995 book Prince Edward, takes a look at the royal family dynamics. Mrs. Stewart writes, Prince Edward doesn't hold his sisters-in-law, the Princess of Wales and the Duchess of York, in high regard, taking his cue from Duke of Edinburgh. It seems that substantially responsible for many of the difficulties that have beset his family and so undermined their public standing. She added, almost alone among the royal family, Edward was not taken in by Diana's glamour. Unlike Prince Andrew, who in the early days made a great fuss over Diana, Prince Edward was always wary of the seemingly malleable ingenua who so quickly captured the imagination of the world, in that he was subconsciously taking his lead from Princess Anna. She had no need to wait upon events. She was indifferent to Diana from the very beginning. She treated the women who by marriage to her elder brother might have become her queen with withering disdain. She called her a silly girl. Miss Stuart added. Edward's relationship with the Duchess of York also became notably detached, although for different reasons and to a far greater extent. Initially, Edward got on well with the exuberant redhead. Everyone did. She was not Edward's romantic type. She's much too jolly hockey stick for his taste, but they certainly established a friendly rapport. However, Miss Stuart describes how Fergie became frozen out by the palace after her friendship with American Steve White was heavily criticized. Miss Stuart adds there would be no more lunches with Prince Edward. Then Fergie and Edward had a major row involving Sophie, Countess of Wessex. Miss Stuart writes, Edward had once been close to the Duchess, but he had come to believe that she made a fool of his brother Andrew. Increasingly suspicious of his sister-in-law, he became convinced that she had leaked information about Sophie to her press contacts. Miss Stuart said Edward mistakenly blamed Fergie because shortly before the romance broke, Sophie met Sarah at Windsor and the two girls started gossiping. It was the Duchess of York's habit to bring Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugene to tea at the Windsor Castle with the Queen every Sunday, because this was the only opportunity the Queen had to see her grandchildren, since the Duke of Edinburgh disapproved of Sarah staying in any of the royal homes. However, Miss Stuart continues, this was one change too many, and when Fergie discovered that she was being accused not only by Edward but by the royal household itself, she was incensed.